are places I remember. In my life, I love you more.
And all this week on the programme, we'll be hearing the life story of David Raven from Brighton, a.k.a. Maisie Trollette. Both Maisie and David recently celebrated their 80th birthday, and all this week we will hear about the life of David, starting off with his childhood.
Actually born in Cornwall, and I was adopted, and these current things on the television at the moment about who you were and things like that. Many tears on my carpet at home. And yet born, and I was adopted and went down by Mr. and Mrs. Raven. I went down to Suffolk.
Okay,
when
what
I was
age did you go
I
to
think I
there?
was 9 months.
Right.
I've been wanting to do that and find out, but I think no. Being sensible of touch wood of what I've reached, I hardly think there's going to be anyone alive. If they are, they're going to.
About going to find your birth
they would be about 140 now, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but before now, you haven't thought about doing it, going to trace your.
Only in the
birth
last,
mother?
say, one of these programs came up, and I thought, well, yeah, it's rather interesting. But there's so many tears, nice tears. You know what I mean? Finding and knowing things and what has happened, because mostly the mums or dads had to give the children away because
I
of
suppose
circumstances.
because you were so young, 9 months old, you probably don't really know anything.
Oh, I wouldn't know anything
about your
I didn't
birth
find out I was adopted until I was about 25, I think.
Gosh, that must have come as a shock.
In a way, there was just a little something went through, and I was so different from my brothers. I mean, not with the context of my life has turned out now, but I mean, with the thing when there was me very blonde and thin, and
So physically,
looked up. Yeah, there was no likeness.
So how did your parents tell you? How did you find out?
No, actually, it was my cousin, and there was just something, and sort of a couple of guys talking, and he said, "Well, you couldn't wish for better, could you?" For like that, and then and I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what do you mean? Couldn't wish for better?" And because he stopped and don't bother. When some people say to you, "Don't bother," you just want to find out what they're talking about, and it didn't make the slightest concern to me, because, as I said, my parents, it was amazing. I mean, I couldn't have had a better life down in Suffolk.
That's really interesting, because you sometimes hear stories where people don't find out they're adopted until they're older. Obviously, you were 25, and actually it devastates them. They feel that they've been lied to all their childhood.
Very much so.
But you didn't feel any of that.
No, I honestly didn't. No, I just felt I was so happy.
How did your parents react when they realised that you knew the truth?
It was amazing. Probably something that I said, I just found out that you're not really my real mum. You are, and I sang to her, "Don't even worry," and that. And then she told me that my mum had been a school teacher from St Ives, and to have a child out of wedlock in 1933.
Oh yeah, it was not the dumb thing.
And being a school teacher, and so she just went across, and actually, I said that whether I was born in St Ives or whether I was born in Australia, that I haven't found out, because that's where she went to.
Oh, I see.
And found out little bits, and because that was made out for the way that during the war, at the end of the war, we were getting food parcels or things sent from Australia. And my mum used to say, "Oh, that's my a lovely friend of mine who went to Australia."
Oh, you see, you think that was your birth mum?
Oh, it was. They found out my correct name. I found little things out. It would have been David Balance. A very good stage name, but I didn't use that.
No, not as good as Maisie Trollette.
No.
Nowhere near. So you grew up with brothers. How many siblings did you have?
I had two brothers. Also, which I found out in conversations, that Mum, why I was adopted, because that must have been traumatic, expecting twins at girls. The girls were born, but unfortunately only lived for about 3 months. And she was so distraught that she went to Dr. Bernardo's, and that was my lucky thing. We had one amazing thing for me being here, because in this little place called Bungay there was a army barracks near, and going to school one morning, we also meet up with, I think, about 6 of us. had to dive in, ran into the churchyard because this German fighter came over and was unloading its bombs, and machine guns had been chased, and we were nearly hit.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was isn't it amazing how other things I can't remember, because naturally you remember that.
So you got married when you were in the little village of Bungay?
Yeah.
So how old were you then?
I think I was 18.
Right.
And it was a case of, in those days, having to.
So there you were, 19, in Bungay, you get married. At that point, were you aware that you were gay?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
I suppose as well, and that's the thing we almost forget in this day and age. Back then, there wasn't probably even that word.
There was never a
People
thinking.
didn't even know what it was, almost.
I think my enlightenment came out when there was Lord Montague, who is now the thing, and there was this huge scandal, and it was involved around Suffolk in Lowestoft, and that's all brought to the fore. Went everywhere around the papers. There were things because involved, because when we had the pub, there used to be people coming over from the Hippodrome and Theatre Royal in Norwich coming over to Bar, because we had some guy play piano, and you'd have nice evenings, and people in the business, I could name drop like mental. You'd need a road sweeper to sweep them up.
Go on, I love a bit of
well, no, it's a bit like a friend of mine called Neil Jackson. Whenever we go out with him, we always take a brush and dustbin because of the names that he drops. But there was wonderful legends like Dorothy Squires, and there was Harry Lester and his Hayseeds, and there used to be just all the acts used to come down there. I sort of untwigged it, why there was just about 3 ladies and about 8 guys and
thought, hang on a
people
minute,
like that.
Yeah. What's going on here?
And we had that artiste, Dorothy Squires, and her husband Billy Reid. They stayed because we had the pub, or the inn, I suppose we call it now, and got into all that.
Well, I can see then where your love of performance came from, and
yeah.
music and singing, because you kind of grew up with it around
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
at the pub.
Yeah.
Just going back to your marriage, how long were you married for?
Well, I went through, I should think, not long, because there was this sort of thing that in scandal in a place like that, and they would say, I don't know how to put this in. I mean, they have DNA now, don't they? But they were saying, Joe, I don't think that is David's, because she was going out with that and so and so and all this.
So you had a son.
Yeah, but
people thought that it might
there
not
wasn't.
be
No,
yours.
there was someone else. But Richard was, it's very not embarrassing things nowadays what people talk about.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think you're far too young to go back on that, nothing would be mentioned. I mean, people, if anyone, like I said about my mum, and people in there, if they knew, she's having, and they would be taken away.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, very different times. You say nowadays you turn TV on and there's people doing DNA tests on Jeremy Kyle, but back then everything was hushed up. No one aired their dirty linen, did they? It was
Absolutely
all kept.
no.
Yeah, it was all kept behind closed doors.
Everyone knew, but was never.
No one said anything.
No.
How did you feel about becoming a father at the age of 19?
I was a very bold person. I could not wait in the evenings, because I was a very lucky man financially, I suppose. When we closed the pubs, we used to close at 10:30, and I used to rush down to another place where I had the dancing and everything. Like, mad about dancing, I always have been. And there again, I got through and meeting and went in for all these sort of competitions. Anglia Television, I won the rock and roll and the Latin American stuff and all that. But then in between that time, I was working, and I was a manager of the co-op.
So you didn't have much time to spend with your son.
I can't believe I can still reach those notes at 48 years of age. At 48 years of age.
To this day.
No one did that. Well, lovely woman, grab my touch it. Oh, yeah? Isn't it nice to drift with a different cloud? So everyone is happy. And even someone's come in the service here, money in the hand. I'll tell you what, that's a good job, Maisie, over our own place. Those old house, you never had to wait. Everything was wonderful. Air conditioning, never room. I would go up in the morning and blow to the keyboard at 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh. You had your own private showers, all the condensation was coming down the wall. That's wonderful. And the sea blue in number 11. Well, you've got to stand on a chair to look for it, but there we are. My best one was sending up Ron Hogan. Lovely Paul Savage, who really came in there one time. And the next thing on the programme, she said, we all had very nice, we had to go through a sheep dip there before you could sign in. Crop roaches in the kitchen. All other destructive and cutting themselves with razor blades. Now you knew very well you were going to stand there and I've got to sit here with tights on and look at a gorgeous boy like you and not try and get a hard on. No, you look stunning today, dear. Someone has to hit you in the face with a brick, but never mind. I think you're two posters, yes. Two posters coming through. What, darling? Oh, I'll do what, I had a wee brandy in this class because at the wheel I know it is
the hairdresser she's retired now, and we came up and I got a job at Selfridges, which I was there for 12 years.
What were you doing at Selfridges?
Well, in the food concern.
Oh, okay. Like you did at the Co-op,
when I was at the Co-op, but then
slightly grander scale.
Well, yeah, and also they were thrilled because I knew how to get a whole side of bacon and bone that all out and prepare it and everything. When I went for the interview, and something I'd done, and I can remember, good God, you're bringing that to me, Mr. Copsey, because I asked for a piece of string and a bone to tie the string under the bone so that when you get the side of bacon and you take them to, and he went, oh my God, he said, can you start tomorrow? Because that was always the correct way to do it, where somebody should get a knife and be half the meat left on the bone. And I was there for 12 years.
Did you enjoy your time at Selfridges?
I did, because in between that time, the Trollette connection, the drag side came out.
So how did that all happen?
Selfridges then, of course, turned out to be quite a gay environment. There's people around there. All the ladies that you worked with, who you had on your counter, sort of knew, and I didn't. It was all new to me, and I used to be quite frightened of speaking because I had such a broad accent, my dear, and that's how they speak down in Norfolk. And everyone was quite posh, as I thought. And we got things, and it wasn't Brenda and I had a place of all. Can you believe what that would cost now in Hans Crescent, just behind Harrods?
How gorgeous!
It was shared with her and two other girls who were in the thing, and that used to cost us £6 a week, and we thought it was dreadful, a lot of money.
I think it costs you slightly more than that these days.
And making all that, and started going around to the pubs. There should be a pub called the Cool Hern, but we eventually went to a pub where James Court was singing and sitting around. Oh, I like this. And there's this, I don't know if you've experienced it, but sometimes when you get an artist, they're coming around and they're doing in the clubs, they'll thrust the microphone in front of you because everyone's sort of embarrassed, and whatever he was singing, Take My Sugar to Tea, and because he went like that, and I said, oh. And I just took the microphone and finished the song. And that was it. And he came back after. He said, where are you in? And I said, what do you mean? Nothing. He said, oh, come up and sing at the weekend, because we have what they call nowadays open mic.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I've never done nothing like that. And he said, oh, yes, you can do it. I did. And we just formed a good friendship. So
then, tell us about the first time you got dragged up, if that's the right phrase.
Easy. Yeah. I always say costume. I'm strange in that way. But I went in at this pub of the cricketers in Battersea, and they would have fun nights or, a dress night. I don't think... the word drag has been around since Shakespearean times, when the girls were not allowed on stage in the Shakespearean times, and because the young boys had to do all the acting for the girls and be dressed, of course, in these great big crinolines and getting through the mud as you can imagine, in those days, no roads in London, they would be dragging the clothes along, and so the drag came up from that.
That's where the name came from.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And that came up from that. So we went up for this competition that night as the Beverly Hillbillies. Jimmy was singing. I was Ma Kettle, and Neil was the thing. And this was a really big one up at the Black Cap, because that would then come out. And first prize was 15 quid. And we went up and done the same thing. We done a funny little number called Bow-Legged Chicken, I'm a Knock-Kneed Hen. And we won it.
And you did?
Yeah. By then, I'd met my amazing partner, went on, and we were trying to think of a name, and everything used to be the Marvelettes and the things and all these something, and Don said, well, you two looking like that. He said, you look like a couple of trolls, which if one looks at it are sort of a mountain thing in Switzerland or somewhere, like the trogs or the trolls. And we were always trolling along, because that was a word used for walking to attract someone's attention, and just stuck the lets on the end, and the trollettes.
The trollettes.
Yeah.
You must miss Jimmy. You must miss performing with Jimmy, because obviously you performed together for a long time.
Well, this is amazing what you're just saying. Because of the birthday and the funding, and Jimmy's on this new CD that we brought out with my birthday, a brilliant voice from Wales and that. And Jimmy and I, you see, went up as the double act, and then our big break came when John Nathan Turner and all the Doctor Who, because I've got so much connection with the Doctor Who. I work with every leading, and with our friends still around, like from Colin Baker and from Peter Davison, and unfortunately, of course, so many of them are not with us anymore. With Hugh Lloyd and there's me name dropping now. And John Nathan Turner came into a pub in the White Bear in Kennington, and had heard, and came through the dressing room afterwards, or the kitchen where we used to get ready, and he said, you're selfish. Jimmy worked at a fish shop. I want you two, I'm going to take a chance, I want you two boys to play Ugly Sister. Would it affect you by giving you jobs up? Because no. When he said who he was, I said, oh yeah. I didn't think, because next day got the calls, will we go for an audition, and which we did, and that was very early, because we had about 3 months, to give up the work and take the chance of going out as the Trollettes, then making it full time. Yeah,
quite a gamble, because as you say, you enjoyed your job at Selfridges. Jimmy had his job at the fish shop.
Yeah.
So you were giving up all of that on this
qualified
chance,
fishmonger. Yeah.
On this chance that you might make it in showbiz.
Yeah.
But you took the gamble.
Yeah.
And it paid off. So you and Jimmy went out performing as the Trollettes.
Yeah.
How many years were you performing as a double act, and when did you decide to go solo?
That, funnily enough, before that time, we'd been for about 3 or 4 years, maybe more, done the pantomime, and then another one at Tunbridge Wells, and then there was a place called Madame Jojo's, and Jimmy always wanted to sing. He wanted to be recording in the sing thing like that, and he got a little break because he thought he was going to be working at Madame Jojo's, which is quite a big known club up in the West End. So when we got the third pantomime, which Wendy Richards was going to do, and he said, I want to do it, I've got this other one. And no animosity, anything like that, contrary to what people have tried to say. And I said, well, that's up to you. And that opened up another amazing thing, because I met up with Chris Hayward and connections with Danny LaRue, and met up with him. I was terrified of meeting him, because I knew he'd done all big pantomimes and things, but we just clicked. So I'd done 9 with him.
And what about your private life?
Private life now is excellent. My partner died 14 years ago, which brought me into the whole thing with the martlet, with the Sussex-August and things. Because when Don took his first heart attack, it was a bit worrying. Then the second one was really bad, and if I don't mean if it had happened now, it'd have been different. But we've researched, or my pals have researched, with our relationship, and this is not being bizarre or strange, but there was a time when the first HIV and AIDS came out. A lot of people, when people were having their bypasses and heart things, there was blood. I don't know if people can research that.
Yeah,
and
blood transfusions. They weren't testing for
they weren't. And
HIV.
Don was up there, and there was about in that area. Well over 100 people died, and because about 6-7 years later they found out about the contaminated bed. And my friend Neil Jackson and Bruce will still say that I'm sure that was because you knew your lifestyle together, and we're sure that was what had happened, because then Don had contacted HIV, and that's why I'm absolutely
Oh, sweetheart.
sorry for the being up the hospital for nearly 6 months, nursing him, and with my friend Weenie, who's not with us. And we just knew in our lives that that was the only way he could have there, because we were always together, and I never mucked around.
No, of course not.
And
of course not. Oh, darling, and I can see how much you must obviously still really miss him.
Never have to have partners since.
The love of your
but
life.
wonderful friends.
Yeah.
And I've got to do a song on Sunday. Hoping I can get through it.
I just want to give him a big hug. The lovely David Raven. Thank you so much to him for sharing his life story with us this week on the show.
Right, what have I got here? Dear Paul, would you mention a special charity show which is being held at the Theatre Royal in Brighton tonight? It's in aid of a good cause as we celebrate for David Raven, a.k.a. Maisie Trollette's 80th birthday. Dave Lynn, Jimmy Trollette, Jay Alexander and Kelly Dupree are all appearing amongst others, and all the money raised is being split between the Sussex Beacon and the Rainbow Fund. Would you wish David a very happy birthday, because I know it would mean a lot to him? And that's from Maggie in Brighton. Maggie, your old sly boot, sending in emails to the wireless. Of course I will. I'd be with you there. I can't, but I'd be with you if I could. You know what I mean? And Maisie, if you Maisie Trollette is a stalwart of the scene, really. Has been going for years. I mean, years. I think Maisie was the cabaret at Stonehenge after they put it up. I mean, we're talking years and years and years ago. And is hugely popular, and is a lovely, lovely person, a.k.a. David Raven, that's his real name. And he used to have a boarding house in Brighton. I told him he wanted boarding up. I didn't anything like it. It was that damp, seriously. There was an otter on top of the wardrobe whistling at me all night. Anyway, Maisie, you have a wonderful, wonderful night tonight, yeah? And I hope you raise loads of money for the Sussex Beacon and the Rainbow Fund, because they're both excellent causes. And Maggie, thank you very much. I shall pop down and visit you one day. That's a threat, by the way. Rightio. There's been a space of dead dogs and cats.